Hello and welcome back to part 2 of my origin story. Yes, I'm kind of recording this at the same time for a little bit of continuity. I'm still wearing the same outfit, same setting, the whole 9 yards. It's 4 a.m. in the morning. I have nothing better to do, so that's part of my message to you from the very first, my end of the year video is start. Just do it. Get out there, start, and do it. No matter what anybody says, thinks, cares, because guess what? They got their own worries in the trouble. They have their own worries these days. All right, so part 2 of how I got into photography. This one's going to be interesting, so stay tuned. All right, the year is 1984. Are you ready for this? Yes, we're going back over 40 years, so guess what? So, needless to say, February 1984, this comes out. Scorpions, Love at First Sting. Amazing album. To this day, every time that I hear Rock You Like a Hurricane, it takes me back to that moment. You know, you have music, you have songs, you have photos, you have other memories, smells, tastes that trigger things for you. Everybody has them, no matter what they are. They take you back to a place in time. This does it. I still remember the day that I heard Rock You Like a Hurricane. And I'm sorry about the glare because I have to, you know, keep me lighted correctly so you get a little bit of reflection and glare on this. But sorry about that. I dropped it. But what, I'm going to quit rambling, but what got me into photography was this album cover, if you can see it. Now, yeah, I'm not going to try and, there we go. That's in focus. Yeah, you can't see my face. You probably can't hear me either, but hey, this is for you to know. So look at this real well. As you see, this was a very, very controversial album cover in 1984. And the reason why it is because of, I mean, it's 1984, a lot of censors. But the main reason that got me into it is, one, like my first story, my first origin story, I'm a huge fan of black and white. That's obviously black and white. But what makes it even better is I found out years later that particular cover was shot by probably, I'm going to say, one of my top 2 favorite photographers, and that was shot by Helmut Newton. And in the 80s, Helmut Newton was in high demand. He was a German photographer, worked for Vogue and all these other magazines back then. So, needless to say, the man knew what he was doing. You know, it's a high contrast photo, but to say that was a very, very bad, you know, well, put it this way. Walmart refused to sell it because of the cover, so they had to go back and reshoot that cover before it's released with just the band on it. And that was actually released in February of '84. So, needless to say, since then I have been, I mean, I grew up listening to rock and roll. I mean, my first song that I actually remember being into was Firehouse by Kiss. So yeah, I mean, I go back that far, unfortunately. I am old, so I have knowledge. Maybe useless, but I have knowledge. So, back to this, you know, front, back, side, the whole 9 yards. This album, to this day, still means a lot to me. For one, it's an everlasting piece of history, for controversy, whatever you want to call it. But this was, I hate saying gateway drug, and I really don't want to because it wasn't. But this was my entry into how'd they do that, how'd they capture that, you know, and looking at the composition and everything else in it. You know, of course, being a 13, 14-year-old kid, you're obviously, I was looking at the lady, you know, as well. But there were other things going on inside my head going, hey, how did they make this? And that is what started this. Mind you, in 84, could I afford, you know, a high-end camera like they were using for this kind of stuff? No. What did I have around the house? Like I said, I had maybe a Polaroid camera in 84, but obviously it wasn't going to be to this level. And I may have had some little, you know, film cameras. But honestly, I really don't even remember having regular 35 millimeter film cameras in a house either. I really don't remember those. But this is the album that started it all for me as far as photography goes, because I wanted to know how they did it. It's just, like I said, I can't speak highly enough about this album. Go out, you know, hey, if you're watching this and you're a younger generational kid, I mean, there's a couple of people I follow that are way younger than me that are huge into the 80s. A lot of you people don't like the 80s. Not saying everybody does, but go give this album a listen, and trust me, get it on vinyl. It sounds better. So, with that said, we're going to jump into one more. Hold on. Now, for the second one, this one's even more fun. So we're talking May 1985, and we're talking about the band Rat. It is this one right here. This is the Invasion of Your Privacy album. Yes, I know if you can see it, it's got, you know, it's got a model in a bedroom, da-da-da-da-da. And this was actually a 1983 Playboy Playmate. I do not I have her name, I'm not grabbing my phone, but this one really, really cemented, if you can see how the album cover is. It's got a lot of contrast and everything else, just everything. I mean, you know, it's got a little bit of purple, some grays. It looks purple to me. But this one really got me into thinking, how did they accomplish this? That, I mean, on top of the music, Rat was, to me, was untouchable back then. I mean, their first 3, 4, 5 albums, you know, drop the needle wherever you want. And, you know, drop the needle means drop it on the vinyl. That's what that means. And you're going to get a good song regardless, no matter what. But, you know, back to the album cover. The album cover was shot by none other than Neil Zlozauer. I think that's how you pronounce his name. But he shot some of the most iconic album covers throughout his career, and a lot of the photos that wound up in Hit Parade or Circus, Kerrang, whatever, all the magazines that we grew up with back in the 80s covering music. He did more than, you know, just what is titled hair metal now. But he had an extensive career of shooting everything for a lot of artists and other stuff. But it's going through and seeing how that this was set up. I need to do more research on just to find out how this session went. You know, I love stuff like this. This is what got me. This was the final hook, you know, to get me very, very interested in photography. Well, I don't want to say final hook because I've got one more video to do after this, which that one's going to take a little bit more planning because it's a little, but no, and it's not what you think, so stop thinking that, okay? No, not that at all. But like I said, this album cover is what got me. This is the second album cover that intrigued me, and like, how did they create this? This is why I do what I do now, and a lot of my stuff, I hate to say it, is inspired by the themes that I grew up with and the things around me that I grew up with. Now, is it antiquated, archaic, and old? Maybe, but I put my twist on it to be more current these days. But in the end, when you're doing photography, video, you have to still somewhat keep your artistic license and shoot or video things that interest you. Yes. Do we wind up taking jobs for money? Of course we do. Everybody does. But you still have to find a way to interject your vision into whatever you're working with. You maybe compromise. And I guarantee you, this was probably a compromise on this between the record label, the band, and you know, the photographer and his assistants and the lighting crew and everybody else. There's always probably a compromise going on. He had a vision for this. Like I said, I don't know the whole story on this. I'll find out more, just for my own personal knowledge. So these two albums are huge for me in my history. That's why, you know, years later, I went out and I spent my money and I bought these so that I could listen to them. Now, I didn't grow up with either one of these on vinyl. I had them on, you know, cassette tape. That's, you know, growing up, that's really all I could afford because cassette tapes were cheaper than vinyl, and we're back to where vinyl is expensive again nowadays, 40, 50 years later. It's insane, but I still buy it because it's just more, it's more nostalgic, more of a nostalgic thing for me rather than the sound quality. I like vinyl. You know, you're having to get up, you know, after 3, 4, 5 songs, flip it and start it again. It's, to me, I like that because it's the physical mentality of it and it's something tangible you get to hold in your hand. Now, I'm going to finish this out saying to these musicians, you know, these Stephen, Juan, you know, Bobby, the late great Robin Crosby. So to this, these guys blew onto the scene with this and made an indelible mark on music history. So to these guys, I say thank you for the music. And back to this, back to the Scorpions. Klaus, Matthias, Francis, Herman, you know, I didn't name everybody, but this album, to this day, like the other one, this one holds even more sentimental value because this one brings back a portion of my childhood that is nothing but good memories. I mean, I still remember the day that my mom handed me this in a cassette. I tore open the wrapper, put it in my Walkman, and I lived with that Walkman on my ears, listening to this over and over and over. I mean, I got to the point I wore the tape out. I had to go buy another one. So that's just what I grew up with. And to all these members of both these bands and every other band out there that I grew up, and the photographers for these things, because there were a lot of photographers. I'm not going to be able to mention all of them. I mean, you know, Mark Wise, you know, great photographer, still around, still doing a lot of stuff. I mean, he's on Instagram as Mark Wise Guy, if you could check that out. But to all of those that produced this type of work for us kids growing up, especially me, my thanks is saying thank you. Because if it hadn't been for you guys doing album covers like this or the one for Rat, I may have not ventured down that road. So for that, I say thank you. And for anybody else out there, find what interests you, enjoy it, get involved in it, and explore it, because you never know where it will lead you. But I'm going to say, being a photographer and a videographer has opened a lot of doors and has gotten me into places to see things, experience things that I more than likely would have never got to experience in life. And for that, I'm truly grateful. Now, do I get to go to a lot of new places still? Yeah. Have I experienced a lot of things and seen a lot of things? Sure has. Or sure have, actually. But to reiterate and to drive this home, please, if you have an interest in something, pick it up, follow it. And that's not just for photography. That's in anything in life, whether it be cars, you know, painting, sculpting, whatever, in the arts or something that interests you, whether, I mean, even if you like math, which is, to me, is a dirty word, sorry. But if you like math, science, whatever, delve into it. Be interested in it. Follow your dreams, follow your passions. This started out as a passion for me, and it has now turned into an 18-year career so far that I have got to see numerous things, places, and meet so many people. I mean, I've met celebrities, and I'm not going to name who, because I'm not going to name drop. That's just wrong. But I've got to meet quite a few celebrities. I've got to meet just regular people who have been a huge mark on my life and in my career. And matter of fact, I still talk with one of my early mentors to this day, 18 years later. We don't talk all the time. It's maybe 3, 4, 5 texts a year, but it's still there that I am able to sit, just send him a quick text, see how he's doing, things like that. And it's great, and it's always good. And he is still the same mindset to this day that he was when I met him all those years ago. So, that being said, that's all I've got. So, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, and I will do my best to answer any questions and carry on a conversation with you, the person right there who's watching this. Because you know what? I, at one point, was you. I had questions and I asked them. So I ask you to do the same. I'm making this for you and for me so that I can answer any kind of questions, give you guidance, so you can, make your mark or leave your mark on this world, whether it be a small one or a big one, does not matter. As long as you leave a legacy, or even if you don't leave a legacy, something that you're going to do that's going to fulfill what's inside of you. So with that being said, have a good one, and I will see you in the 3rd installment soon.